Hey guys, Jack Lone here. Thank you for being patient while I took a little hiatus. So, I figured the best way to come out of this is to just ramble about one of my favorite music groups. Okay, I got into this band back in 2009 when I was a little kid, and it's kind of just stuck with me ever since. I've never stopped learning about this band. Whenever they come on the radio or I'm listening to one of their albums, it just takes me back. And they have influenced me not just musically, but also in the person I am today. Thank God, not through their personas too much, but through their lyrical content. That band is Kiss. Um, Kiss started out in 1973 in Brooklyn, New York, and the group members originally were Gene Simmons on bass and kind of lead vocals, him and the lead singer and rhythm guitarist Paul Stanley. They kind of switch up the singing role quite a bit, so you have a variety in the vocals. Peter Criss was the original drummer, and he was replaced numerous times, as well as Ace Frehley, the lead guitarist. Then, one of the unique things I like about this band is everybody at one point or another sings. Gene Simmons has a big part in singing, while Paul Stanley is the main lead singer. Ace Frehley does sing a little bit, mainly the biggest one that people know for Ace as a singer is his cover of New York Groove, which originally appeared on his solo album, and all four of them had solo albums as well. They were all released at the same time. Now, I think one of the biggest things for this band is they took a completely different route. They focused on the music, of course, yes, but they weren't really musicians. From what I have read in resources, they weren't very big musicians at all. In fact, they couldn't even tune their own instruments. But they banded together and they wanted to form something that was bigger than themselves. So they took influence from Alice Cooper with the whole shock rock scene. Peter Criss can be quoted as saying, they saw Alice Cooper and they thought, ooh, one guy with makeup. What if all four of us were to wear makeup? So the imagery comes into play there. They were very big for their imagery, with Gene Simmons as Demon, Peter Criss as Catman, Ace Frehley as the Spaceman, or as I learned him as Space Ace, and Paul Stanley as Starchild. He also was Bandit for a little bit, but that was mainly because there was not really controversy, but he was the only member that did not have symmetrical face paint originally. And not too long after that, they just ditched Bandit and went back to Starchild, the original face paint for Paul Stanley. These four members were able to come up with a band that was bigger than life. Gene Simmons is very business-minded, and so they were able to capitalize on the idea of a band. In fact, it was to the point where there were Kiss coffins made, action figures, a comic book was released by them, and so they knew that Kiss fans would really buy this stuff. They managed to actually go where the ink was being made, and they each literally put their own blood into the ink. So anyone who has that Kiss comic book technically has a piece of all four original members sitting in their collection. My music recommendations for Kiss would be, well, I'll admit, I haven't listened to the whole discography even though I am a big member, but for God's sakes, this is a very small portion of their discography. So, my first recommendation is KISS Playlist Plus. It has Got to Choose, Beth, it has Beth on there, Deuce, Strutter, Hotter Than Hell. Oh, some of my favorite Gene Simmons hits are on there with Domino, Hate, and Unholy. He is phenomenal on vocals for that and just really brings out the, it's not really metal, but it has a real big heaviness to it. They're technically classified as classic rock, shock rock, hard rock, heavy metal, technically, in some songs. But, yeah, I highly recommend this. It's a 3-disc album with, from what I have told by the person who gave it to me, the first disc is mainly based on their music in the 1970s. Disc 2 is 1980s, and disc 3 of the final disc 3 is their 90s stuff, which you can also find, I believe, on Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. But if, you know, compilation albums are not your thing, the first album that I really got into was Destroyer, with hits like God of Thunder and Detroit Rock City, Shout Out Loud, Flaming Youth. There are very few things that I don't like on this album. Like, the only reason why I don't like Beth is because it's overplayed in my opinion, and, I mean, it's a soft song after a whole bunch of pumping anthems. So, some resources I have used to acquire my knowledge through the years are KISS Behind the Mask, KISS and Make Up, Gene Simmons' autobiography, which, as you can tell by the fact that he's coming out of an S, there are in fact 4 autobiographies, one by each member. And I don't really know who the author is of this book, but my uncle gave it to me because we share a love of KISS. And I read this many moons ago, and I have to say it's a phenomenal book. Honestly, I'll probably pick it up again because I can't remember much out of it that I read, but I remember it being very entertaining to someone who didn't really like to read. And for documentary resources, I would recommend the shock rock episode of Metal Evolution, a documentary series by Sam Dunn, anthropologist and metalhead. I have to say that if I am able to fit this kind of information into a short-ish video, they have a very big legacy, and they will be remembered for decades. I mean, they are pretty much the hard rock Beatles in terms of legacy. Not necessarily the music, but every time KISS comes on, it's recognizable, I can't skip it, and honestly, they are one of the biggest influences in my life, and they are a household name. I mean, really, who the fuck doesn't see a picture of Gene Simmons and automatically associate that with KISS? To the point where he got his picture put in for like half a second in a Disney movie when they are going through the culture. I believe that it's in WALL-E, I can't remember. But still, in a Disney movie, they're showing a picture of Gene Simmons. That's like the height of popularity nowadays. Well, that's all for this video. I believe I've rambled on long enough about one of my favorite bands. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that little notification bell so you know when I put out new videos. And until next time, this is Jack Lone, signing off.